Hi guys, Adrian here, the Porsche lover. So today I'm going to talk about PDK versus Tiptronic. Which is better? Let's deep dive into the subject for today. As usual, we'll start the wristwatch check. So my wrist today is a Rolex Datejust. This is the reference model 16233 circa early 1990s. It comes with a two-tone bezel and the bracelet as well. But today I have it on the brown leather strap. Besides that, it also has a white dial with a Buckley dial, which is the Roman numerals. Lovely watch. And you can see that it has a patina on the bezel itself. You can see it's a bit pinkish due to the lack of oxygen because I kept it in the safe for quite a bit of time. And you can see also there is also the patina on the date wheel, which is a bit yellowish. Lovely watch. Alright, back to the topic at hand. If you are a Porsche file or someone looking to go into Porsche, you always hear people telling you that PDK is way better than the Tiptronic. But is there any merit in that, any truth in that? So today I'm going to give you the Porsche lover honest opinion, the lowdown on how it feels like to drive a Tiptronic car and a PDK car. So I'll take a test drive in my Boxster 97.1. This is an S model, and also the 97.2 Cayman. That's a non-S model. But here what we do is that we don't care about whether it's S or not S, but we're looking at the gearbox by itself only, which is Tiptronic versus PDK. To be honest, for the longest time, I've always believed that the PDK was better than Tiptronic by miles and miles because, as you know, I actually have a 997.2 Golf. That was my first Porsche. So hence, I've driven only PDK from the first get-go. So hence, I always bought into the forums, into the people telling me that, oh yeah, PDK is way better. But however, last year, I got myself a Boxster with a Tiptronic 0.1. So hence, I start to see there are actually pros and cons to Tiptronic. So one of the first questions that a lot of people ask me is that how do I tell whether it's a Tiptronic transmission or a PDK transmission? So you can see actually very easily from the gear lever itself. So you see the gear lever, you can see that there's a L-shaped inverted L gate shifter here. So you can see that the thing is PRN, then the manual is to the left here. You can see there's a notch here, okay? Where the PDK version is just a very clean aesthetic with a single line. I'll be deep diving a bit more further to tell the differences between these two gearboxes. So as I said earlier, the 97.1 comes with the Porsche Tiptronic gearbox, which is your normal automatic gearbox where you find into the usual everyday cars. It's or they call it a slush box with a torque converter. Whereas in the 97.2 comes with the PDK. PDK stands for Porsche Doppelgruppen-Getriebe or Porsche Dual Clutch Gearbox literally. So what it means is that it has two rows of gears where it can actually shift faster, which I won't go details, than the Tiptronic itself. So at the same time, this gearbox also can take a lot of punishment, meaning you can do a clutch dump like a normal manual gearbox, and you can do launch control in this car themselves. So I'm currently driving my Boxster, the 97.1 with the Tiptronic gearbox. So first thing you notice is that the car itself feels like a normal gearbox, of course a slush box with a torque converter and everything. However, when you compare to the PDK, it actually feels pretty responsive, especially when you go into the first to second gear. When you start the accelerator, the response I would say is more instantaneous. This is assuming there is no sport mode turned on, because this car, of course, the Boxster doesn't come with sport mode, so hence I can't turn it on. If you compare it to the 97.2 with the PDK, that gearbox actually feels a bit more sluggish when you want to go off the line, especially when you're on the first or second gear with low revs. It feels a bit sluggish. That's because due to the design of the gearbox, where the PDK, the Porsche Doppelgruppen-Getriebe, actually takes time to mesh in the gears, then only it drives off. Whereas in the slush box or the automatic gearbox, the Tiptronic, actually just goes off. When you step on it, it just goes. So you can see right now it's very smooth, like it just goes. Alright, so same time you can actually put into manual mode for this Tiptronic. So to put in manual mode, what you can do is that you push the lever to the left and you put it in manual mode. So therefore it will not change the gear until you change it. So you can actually change the gear via the Tiptronic buttons on the steering itself. I find that the response from the Tiptronic button is actually more responsive. There's a slight lag for the PDK when it's not in sport mode. So for example, for my Golf, so there is always find there's a slight lag. Of course, there's a lag also when you press the button for the Tiptronic. However, the lag is more noticeable on the PDK itself without the sport mode turned on. So again, I'm comparing both gearboxes without the sport mode turned on. So you can see right now, I will downshift. I'm currently in 4th gear to 3rd gear. So it's almost instantaneous. You can see it. So later I will show you PDK. Hopefully you can see the difference. Yeah, as you can see, I've upshifted, so it's very fast. Oh, a lovely gearbox. And of course, with this Tiptronic, you're using the older non-DFI engine, which the sound is just lovely. I'm not sure whether I can capture it in camera. I hope I can. Oh, lovely, lovely. You rev the car, that engine sound itself. So yeah, I mean, it's not a terribly lousy gearbox like some people say, because of course when you compare the PDK, which we will jump in the car later, we will share the differences between the both cars, but by itself I think it's lovely. If you haven't driven the PDK before, I would say that you won't be disappointed with the Tiptronic gearbox. Oh, that lovely sound. Oh my. See, I just downshifted again, and then again and again. The beautiful scream or the roar, the flat 6 at 4,000, 5,000 RPM is just to die for, I tell you. Especially when you're using the older cars. I mean, you don't need any sport exhaust, anything like that. Because for the 997, if you spec the sport exhaust, it doesn't make a huge difference. But with the engine soundtrack like that, I think you can just forgo the exhaust upgrades and then just leave it. But for the 97.2 with the PDK, you definitely need a sport button or upgraded exhaust, because that one, the engine note soundtrack is not as good as this one, the 0.1. Oh my, another corner here. Let's downshift and see. Oh my. This is what the Porsche experience should be like, man. Oh my. So not terribly fast, but very fun. Especially, again, a lot of people think that driving is just about speed and everything. Is a complete experience in my opinion, from the visual to the steering feel to the oral. So it's a complete experience that makes a Porsche a Porsche. Again, some purists might argue that the newer Porsches might have lost that soul, but again, it's because it's due to environmental the emission exhaust and a lot of other stuff where they are forced to make the engine not as nice sounding as before, or not as loud as before. Whereas the old engines, wow, it's just a lovely soundtrack. You will never get this sound, the visceral sound from a 0.1 in the newer Porsches. But of course, like I say, there are pros and cons to it. The cons of this car is that the car doesn't shift as fast as the PDK, which I will show you later in the other car itself. If you like my content so far, please give me a like button and subscribe to the channel down below. Thank you. Alright, so currently we're in the 97.2 Cayman with the PDK gearbox. So you can see instantaneously the difference is that the gear lever is different. At the same time, the steering is also different, the buttons are different. So this steering button has a bit of controversy where a lot of people say that it's a lousy design because it's very different from the usual design at the time where it was like the pedal shifters, because this one you have to push in or out to downshift and upshift. So it took a bit of time for me, to be honest, to also get into it, but after a while it was fine. But of course, if you compare it to the newer sports steering with the pedal shifter, of course the pedal shifter will be better. Okay, so let's take a drive and see how the PDK gearbox performs. I'm currently in first gear right now and want to take off. So as I mentioned here, one of the issues I had with the PDK was that I find it was a bit sluggish, especially you're in stop-go traffic. So you can see if I step on it, it takes a bit of time for the car to mesh in. Of course, it's not the car's fault, it's because this car itself is due to the design of the gearbox. So hence, it will always feel a bit sluggish, especially when you're not in sport mode. When you're in low revs, you try to rev the car, feels like it takes a bit of time for it to get going. But once it gets going, it's completely fine already. So that is one thing to note off when you're doing traffic jam. So I find that the Tiptronic will be better to drive in traffic jams or heavy traffic. I do have to note that this car has a bit of non-stop, meaning that the exhaust has really been modified. So it's currently running on the rimless exhaust, so it will sound better than a standard PDK, because standard PDK with this engine, the new DF engine, sounds like a sewing machine. Literally, trust me, I mean, I've been driving that car without exhaust mod on my original 997.2, the Golf, for quite a fair bit of time. So I always found that the sound is just not engaging enough. I mean, it's a Porsche, but it doesn't have the oral experience that you expect from a Porsche itself. So again, I say this car has a rimless exhaust, so let's try and see how it performs. I'm going to put this car into manual mode as well, so I push the lever to the left. So the difference between the Tiptronic and the PDK is that you can control via the buttons or the gear lever itself, whereas Tiptronic you only can control via the buttons itself. Okay, so I'm going to try and downshift now and see. You see, I can't, I'm not sure if you're showing over the camera, but there's a slight lag. I mean, it's, I'm sure it's less than 1 second definitely, but the problem is that you cannot capture it, but you can feel it, especially when you try to drive more spiritedly and without sport mode. Definitely you can feel that the difference is a bit laggy. Of course, you can try to tune the PDK by making me more aggressive, by driving the car more aggressive via a talent tune-up, which I've done a video previously on it. But however, if you drive it normally, definitely you feel sluggish. So see, it takes some time. See, like, compared to the Tiptronic, it's instant. Yeah, so here we go. Ooh. Okay, now we're talking about. Alright. So definitely, that is more exhaust than engine sound, whereas the Tiptronic, it was more engine than the gearbox sound. But again, I'm not here to compare the engine notes. I'm here to compare the gearboxes. Now I shall put it into sport mode and see what's the difference. Okay, in sport mode right now, the gear shift is faster, it's more aggressive. Now it feels more like a car, I mean like a very fast Porsche already. There we go, the gear shifts are even faster as well. So I feel that Porsche intentionally detuned the gearbox itself. So you do a sport mode, haha, too bad. Basically it's a slower car already. So I feel it's just terrible. So at the end of the day, to get the full experience for the PDK, definitely you will need to have the sport mode. Or you can drive the car hard until the gearbox really recognizes your driving patterns. Oh, alright, that's like just sounds very good, but again, it's not as nice sounding from our opinion compared to the engine sound that we had in my 97.1 Boxster earlier. Alright, okay, corner coming up, downshifting. So you see, it is still a bit slow. Okay, now I'll put into Sport Plus mode. Okay, for Sport Plus, I'm not really a huge fan because Sport Plus actually is a bit too aggressive, especially on normal roads. It jerks too much and it holds the gear too much. Okay, currently we're in Sport Plus mode already. I can hear that the engine is revving harder, then the gearbox, there's a shock shift when you shift it. Yep, this is where the PDK shines, because the gear shift is just insanely fast. Because there is already a gear standby for the car to shift already. Hence, of course, it's way faster than the usual sludge box or usual automatic transmission boxes. Oh, alright, feels damn good now. The car feels super aggressive. Oh, alright. The rimless exhaust sounds definitely very good. Not too loud, not too soft, just the correct pitch, if you ask me. It doesn't sound screaming like a high pitch one, nor is it too boomy or bassy. It's just right in the middle, just nice. So you can see right now, I just downshifted. The gear shift is faster definitely. Feels more like the Tiptronic right now in terms of the speed of shifting. Alright, so it's holding the gear shifts longer because I'm in Sport Plus mode. Yeah, then you get more of the sound of the exhaust. Wow, okay, alright. In conclusion, the PDK is definitely the much better gearbox. It's more modern gearbox, it can take more punishment. However, there are some good sides to Tiptronic as well. Like I say, Tiptronic is better for town driving where the traffic is actually a bit slower. There's a traffic jam where it's a bit more responsive. whereas the PDK feels a bit more sluggish until you put the sport mode on. So those are differences in the gearbox. At the same time, another thing to note is that the maintenance cost. So the maintenance cost for Tiptronic is also more affordable than the PDK itself, because for example, you change your gearbox oil, you change the oil filter pan, the gasket and everything. So definitely the gearbox for the Tiptronic will cost lower to maintain. And same time, touch wood, if anything were to happen to the gearbox, let's say if the gearbox breaks down, you want to overhaul or recondition the gearbox, the Tiptronic also will be a cheaper cost to overhaul or to recondition than the PDK itself. Back to my original question, is the PDK much better than the Tiptronic? Most definitely yes, it's a newer gearbox, it's more modern and everything. But the question is that, does everybody need the PDK? Let's say if you're looking for a used Porsche, I will say no. So as I mentioned earlier, I find that Tiptronic is more than enough. If let's say if you want to go for toge, you want to go for B-road driving, for long drives to carve the canyons, Tiptronic is more than enough. However, if you want to go for a track, I would say you will get a better experience from the PDK. But the PDK must come with a Sport button or the Sport Chrono, which has the Sport Plus button itself. Alright, so thanks for watching guys. In the meantime, stay safe and I'll catch you in the next video.